Hello, everybody. Let's have a look at BEPRO. So one of the I suppose laggers of the more recent additions to my crypto portfolio. Currently back up in profit. I bought this around 0.7 of a cent, so there has been a bit of what I would call squeaky bum time coming back down to these lower levels, breaking down below the 200 exponential. And for a coin like BEPRO, this is where things really do start to get particularly scary, and they're still scary right now. In all fairness, a giant uptrend started from the absolute be-all and end-all bottom, and this is what we've got to look at when we think about bottoms, especially catching knives on things like this. And this is what I was saying at the very start of when I was looking at things in May, June, July, to make new additions to my altcoin portfolio, which again most of my altcoin positions have been riding from November, December, January last year, and I actually have been taking profit on a lot of those over the last few weeks into Bitcoin, that would be. But there are some obviously that joins my portfolio more recently, and this is one of them. This and VRA and OMI and a couple of others, but those are the main ones, right? The smaller cap, low cap things that you'll find on places like Gate.io or Kucoin. And when we were thinking about buying into this, I said, look, we have to wait to see how this is going to drop. We've got an area of support down here. I'm not interested in trying to catch a knife on this one. Now, obviously, for those who have the balls to catch knives, this would have done very well, and you'd still be massively in profit now. But what I was saying at the time is that if it broke down from this level, which we have to be prepared for, we do have a lot lower areas of significance. That would be another 68% drop from that knife catch, which would have been devastating. And if it did break down from then yeah, you could start to scale in at these even lower levels, and that would be a knife catch that might be worth it. But at this point, I wasn't particularly interested. So I wanted to see if an uptrend began, and an uptrend certainly did begin. This was one of the first of the small cap altcoins to really start to rally, and you could argue that basically the rally is what we're recovering from right now. The initial rally brought the money flow index on the daily all the way up to 97.5, almost 97.6, which is pretty much a get out indicator. And it was shortly after then when I said, look, okay, it's at this point now where this should start to go back up. We broke out of the small area of consolidation, went for another stab up, and then started to break down even more with the market and also with bearish divergence, which is still technically in play, right? This is the bearish divergence has played out, but we have not broken out of this downtrend of resistance on the RSI, even though we have broken out of the consolidation pattern on the daily with price action. So we're above the 200 exponential again, and again we broke above here a few days back. We retested it, so nice back test, 1-2 closures above it, which is good. And today we're moving up towards the 1 cent zone. 1 cent being what I would imagine to be a very important level of resistance, and maybe even a rejection comes from there. And we'll see what kind of reaction that takes place on the 1 cent zone. It's also the top of the Bollinger Band, so just above 1 cent, and maybe we'll get I suppose a rejection from there. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I mean, it's had a nice uptrend since it's found its potential bottom around about 0.64 of a cent, and this would be a nice move, up. And again, breaking out of this would suggest that we either go into a very aggressive uptrend in BEPRO fashion, or we basically consolidate at this level. Basically, so long as we're above the 200 exponential this entire time, which comes in around about 0.8 of a cent, and again, I'm just drawing that in as an example. The 200 exponential is this white moving average that we've got here. So long as we're above there, always, and never breaking down below there and closing below there, we don't really need to think about lower targets, although they should always be. We should always be aware of them, especially with BEPRO, which can obviously die significantly. It could crash horrendously. We got to be prepared for that. So moving up towards the 200, it is the 200 moving average, the top of the Bollinger Band, and also a 1 cent psychological area of resistance. It's more than just psychological. We've got historical supports all the way here as well, and rejections as well. So we're coming in quite closely now to that zone, and again, I would expect a rejection. It doesn't mean that I'm expecting this to collapse into its own shadow. 4 hourly is very much the same as the daily, looking quite good, broken above. Just today, in fact, the 200 exponential on the 4 hourly. So every day that we're above here is good. It's nice to see that these moving averages on the 4 hourly are closing above the downwards trend of resistance, which means that this could be the period of accumulation between 0.8 and 1 cent, basically. we could accumulate there for our next big major move up. Now, if we have a look over here, we are relatively high on the RSI, but not massively. So we could easily get to that 1 cent zone, and the daily suggests that there is plenty of room to move as well. I like the way that it's looking on the daily. I have to say, it does look quite good. But again, this isn't something that we should take to the bank right now. It's still stuck between a rock and a hard place, between 0.8 and 1 cent. That's the zone. And if we think about the daily MACD, I mean the weekly MACD, it's not crossed bullish yet. It would take a little bit of time for this to cross bullish. Again, this chart is very hard to read because of this giant mega dump wick that came on, where it's valued at $100. It's kind of ridiculous. I wish they'd just sort these charts out, basically. Either way, it's turned up quite nicely, and it's good to see, because this is always going to be one of those gamble kind of tokens until it perks up its a bit more of an aggressive uptrend and breaks above its previous all-time high. And I am expecting it to do that, to be honest with you. I do expect that to happen, but it is very, very, very risky. And this is one thing I always have to stress when dealing with these Kucoin charts. They don't trade with enormous volume, which means that with the bigger moves up, they do come back down massively. If you try and put yourself in the position of someone who's holding this, right, you make a 50% move, you might want to sell it, right? Some people want to trade spot, and that's how you would do it. You wouldn't be all in forever. If someone's made 100, 200, 300% move, you might want to take some profit on that. This isn't available for margin trading, and so for that reason, the only volume that counts on this one is spot trading, which means that buying and selling is what's creating these candles. And because it's not available across the board on places like Binance and the larger exchanges with the larger volume, it does mean that this will move up and down significantly until it gets more liquidity, more volume, at least just on Gate.io and Kucoin, which is where it trades, and currently doesn't trade with massive amount of volume. But it doesn't mean that there's not an enormous amount of opportunity there for you. There definitely is, but it comes with greater risk. Obviously, you know that's what altcoins are all about, and that's what we like about them. We like the big moves, but you've got to be prepared for big moves going the opposite way, especially when people are going to be loading up on this. They'll see themselves do a 100% move, 200 or even more, and then they'll decide to sell. People become whales quite quickly on coins like this, and there will have been some, and probably is some significant whales back down at these levels, and there will have been some significant profit taken around here, which is why it collapsed into its own shadow. Something like this, if you're buying into this $1,000 down here, just roughly, let's just roughly where it is, this is huge gains just from a small investment. $1,000 up here, you're up 6,700. It's you can imagine, and like I say, a lot of people putting in either 100, 200, 500, $1,000 around here essentially become BEPRO whales and cause the charts to collapse back down into itself. Now there'll be less of those now because the majority of these people probably would have taken some profit on the way down. But there will be more whales in the future, and until this becomes something that trades with a lot higher volume, and hopefully on something like Binance, then you're going to get big moves up and big moves down. So I'm all up for the big moves up, and like I say, for something like this, I've got my targets. My targets are the previous all-time high. Then I will take some profit on this one. I'm not looking to try and trade this one for every last little move. I don't really have the time for it, but we are coming in potentially now at a resistance, so we'll see how we respond to that. Resistances break all the time, Resistances do break all the time. Again, there is another problem, which is that Bitcoin is having a rally, and it's not a problem because this is why I've been taking profit into Bitcoin mostly recently, because I see the Bitcoin dominance chart turning up as well, and Bitcoin ranging and having one of the more bullish charts in cryptocurrency, really. And so I just, it's more of a hedge against up and downside going into Bitcoin, taking profits from altcoins, whether they're massively in profit or lagging behind, really. The safest position is a Bitcoin position, provided you're happy to be exposed to the market anyway. And Bitcoin coming in now at what could be a potential resistance as well, just at this descending trend of resistance. And if that is the case, then we would expect a rejection here that could bring us all the way back down to the 200 exponential, or maybe even the lower side of the range, or even worse, the worst case scenario is down to the bottom area of this triangle formation, 36,000. So this is all very possible. I'm not saying it's massively likely. Again, when we're looking at this in terms of resistances break. Otherwise, we would always be in a certain range the entire time. So if this broke, then that would be great. The market would probably be carried along with it. But then I would expect that altcoins will probably start to see their satoshis drained as Bitcoin goes into an actual breakout. But anyway, that's a story that will go in another time. Either way, BEPRO's looking quite good, coming in at resistance. That's pretty much the be all and end all of this chart analysis. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Take it easy.